Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well. I forget whenever you go on live, they like zoom in on your face a lot.
So for everyone who is tuning in either right now or uh, on our IGTV page, welcome to the future of theater. Da, 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 da. Uh, um, a live talk show where I bring on people who are making art somewhere adjacent to the theater sphere. Um, I am your host, Freddy Mancilla, and today's guest is uh, theater extraordinaire. I don't even want to put pinpoint too much on your talents, but writer, director, artistic director, administrator, activist, founder for theater, TV. You got it. You name it. She's done it. But I will just leave it at hello, Miss Terramoses.
Hello. Thank you for having me. And you did a better job listing out my jobs than I do because I always forget.
Well, what's it called? DC becomes a town where resume has a really big weight on it. So, I try to remember everyone's credentials. Just if
Oh,
nothing else, I have it.
oh yes, I remember, climbing to the top of Capitol Hill and then just throwing my pieces of paper resume out for the world to say, please hire me. I remember that. I live there.
Good times, good times. Well, the rest of America might also be in that time period too, along with the rest of the industry. And by the industry, I mean theater. Before we
Yeah.
get too far into dreaming of the future, what was theater for you before the whole pandemic? You were on the move a lot before we got here.
Yeah, so for me, theater before the pandemic was a lot of flying to and fro to all sorts of different places, whether that is for plays that I've written or plays I was directing. Other than the obvious of like it was live in
Yeah.
person with people. But yeah, honestly, I did not realize how much I actually did travel until the pandemic. And so, for me, theater was like hyper localized, but hyper localized in places that I was not local to,
Mhm.
which is wild.
Region.
And then,
You're
like,
on the
the
regional
other,
circuit.
yeah. And then I would say that the second thing about what theater was before versus what it is now is that theater before was, and still currently is, but very gatekeepy. Like I
Yeah.
could not get these jobs without passing through these certain structures, and these structures that are, rooted in white supremacy and settler colonization before I could actually get these opportunities, meet these other people, get hired, et cetera, et cetera. Which is different now. It's just a little different now. And then also in the wake of, the We See You White American Theater movement,
Right.
um, is gonna be different, and I'm excited about that.
And speaking of the We See You White American Theater Movement, you are one of the signatories of the post, the proclamation, the
Hmm.
challenge that came out from the group. And I won't ask you to speak for the group, but you were sort of alluding to it before. But is that the future? Is that the roadmap for where the industry should be going?
Yeah, absolutely. Those 33 pages of demands, which is the first, there's many to come, was written in collaboration with scores and scores of artists. So, yeah, I am very excited to be one of the 300 original signatories, but I'm also one of over 120,000 at this point. And so, with those sheer numbers alone, that is the future of the theater. There is no going back. There is no non-negotiable, especially when we have 120,000 Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are saying no, and then even more, not even more, but more additional white allies who are willing to make the change. And so, yeah, there's no going back. I like to think of it as, if there's children listening or if you have children around you, warning, warning, warning. Anyway, but I like to call it the Santa isn't real moment anymore. Because, like, that was a formidable time in childhood if you were a child who celebrated and believed in Santa Claus, is that once you found out that he didn't exist, there was no going back to like he did. It was a pivotal change. The fog has cleared. Choose your metaphor. And so how I strongly feel about We See You is that that's the moment, y'all. We done found out Santa don't exist. The fog has cleared. You can see these mountains. Like, you can't go back to pretending those mountains aren't there. You can't go back to pretending a jolly old white man in a suit's going to come down your chimney and give you presents. You can't go back. Yep. So that's what I'm very excited about. Yes. So the theater pre-pandemic, it's dead. Goodbye forever. Hate to burst your bubbles. We have theater during pandemic, and then I'm excited for theater after pandemic, which will be more equitable and more accessible.
Will it look the same? And I'm not talking about the people or the whether they're in the room or on the stage or
yeah, but like the format.
Yeah, the format. Yeah, the form.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can get out my crystal ball and find out. I mean, I think for me, I think yes and no. I mean, because also just the structure of theater, as we've all been taught, has been rooted in the Eurocentric way of storytelling. And so it's like you have your pretty little picture box. Audiences come to see the work that you've done. That is done. It's finished. And then they leave. And you give them what you want to give them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I mean, and also like theater's created, again, as we have all been taught and have formally known it, in a very hierarchical top-down structure. And so, I mean, everything from new play development is rooted in colonization, and again, really forcing that Eurocentric model of storytelling, which is not the only one, nor is it the best one at that, may I say, but it ain't the only one. Anyway, down the throats of everyone. I mean, from university to every development process ever. Anyway, so when I'm thinking about like what the structure of theater could be, I think it'll be different, especially if we make these drastic field-sweeping changes that we need to make. How can we continue to prioritize Eurocentric ways of storytelling? We just can't do that. It's impossible. And so I look forward to a future where art that is created in an indigenous way of telling stories is just as valuable, if not, a little bit more valuable, than Shakespeare, than, Chekhov, than Arthur Miller, than Tennessee Williams, like a whole bunch of dead white guys. Like, let's not. Anyway. Same old thing, yeah. So, I imagine a more decolonized, not decolonized, but a more decolonized way of creating theater.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think it's going to be as commercial as it's been? At least, I guess there has been a sort of tug and pull between the mainstream theater, Broadway, perhaps, and the more regional roots of the theater right now. What do you think that structure is going to look like? Is it going to keep being jukebox musicals on Broadway for the next few? Is Broadway dead? Ooh.
Ooh. Right. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think Broadway is going to die. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. So I, with Groundwater Arts, they're amazing, look them up. We have been in conversation with folks who have done both commercial, like who work in commercial theater, as well as like folks who don't. And like what we can't ignore when it comes to like Broadway especially is that they operate on a plantation model. It's the folks who are raking in the money are Black and brown people, because they are predominantly the cast, is where the most diversity lies in, the commercial structure. And they're making all this money for those at the top who are 99% white. Anyway, so that plantation model full-blown exists. And so whenever I think about, like, we're moving towards justice and equity and decolonization, and like the trains leave the station, you get on, or like you ain't going nowhere, like that's non-negotiable. Broadway can't operate the way that it has before, just within how it was. We just cannot. So I don't know. But I do feel as though that's going to take a little bit longer commercially for folks to get on board. Like we need drastic power shifts and changes. We need drastic organizing to really make that happen. But like in the future, I imagine, I imagine a very less gatekeepy Broadway. I imagine more BIPOC artists in every level of producing a commercial product on stage. I imagine a future that is like divesting from these like fluffy tuffy musicals.
Right.
Like if I never hear about a production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma ever again, like if I never hear about it, it'll be too soon. So
Now we must mention that you are streaming from Oklahoma right now, so
yeah,
you may be biased in some way. In some
I'm a
way.
little bit more. I'm a little bit more than biased. Yeah, I mean, other than that musical, it's anti-indigenous, and also being from Oklahoma sucks. Anyway, that's just the example I always give. But yeah, but I mean, like I imagine a future where we don't need that. One where we can actually really support art for art's sake. Because especially when it comes to the commercial model, and especially if you're a BIPOC, you cannot create art for art's sake. You have to create art that white people will want to fund, and white people want to fund art that's not challenging, that's not scary, that's going to make their predominantly white audiences, the predominantly white producers happy and comfortable. And so, like, how can someone like break through that commercially? It's impossible. So I imagine some changes. I mean, I think like Jeremy O. Harris with the slave play really picked up that torch and is really paving the way for that. So I'm excited to see, like, in pre-pandemic theater, if a play like Slave Play, written by an amazing playwright like Jeremy O'Harris, with his entire like team of predominantly Black artists, like can get it through there, then like y'all, what's the excuse? We got this. Anyway, so huge shout out and kudos to Jeremy and his Slave Play. I don't know if I answered the question. I feel like I did lots of rambling, but anyway.
No, you were wonderful. But I will dovetail on that as a awards historian. His play, Slave Play, actually received the most nominations in history of Tony Awards for any straight play, so a non-musical play.
Yes.
Congratulations. But that does lead me to my next question. Actually, no, it doesn't. No, I'm just going to go ahead and change the subject. How do you feel about the online theater that's been happening these days? Is online theater going to be a component of the future of theater, or at least maybe for the moment? Is it the now?
I hope so, honestly. So this is my controversial hot take opinion. Whoops, gonna get burned at the stake. So I personally love digital online theater for a multitude of reasons. The first one being accessibility, because, you know, as an example, my family has never seen a play that I have written or directed because it's never been where they live. And when it has, it's been too far away, it's been too expensive. I'm only given 2 comp tickets. And, you know, they live in Seminole Nation, and the plays that I write are very much rooted in my family's histories within Seminole and Muskogee Creek Nation. And so because of digital theater, they were able to see plays of mine which are inspired by their own stories and experiences, which have never happened before. You know, I also think about accessibility in a way of pre-pandemic, because I'm based in Oklahoma, and I have to travel to the places. everyone would be like, oh, this, you need to know this director's work, or you need to know this playwright's work, or blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, well, y'all, I'm stuck up here in Indian country. I
Right.
can't get on a plane to go see the show in New York or go see the show in DC or blah, 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 just for a weekend. I can't do that. And then the other part of accessibility, too, is that this pandemic is nowhere near over. And even when we get to the place where folks say that the pandemic is over, it's not going to be over for a multitude of individuals, folks with disabilities, folks with compromised immune systems, like folks who live with people with disabilities or compromised immune systems, et cetera, et cetera. And I am one of those people. And so, like, long after people say theater is safe, it still won't be for, like, me and millions of others who are like me or in situations similar. And so I hope it stays, and then I think about, like, how well Hamilton did on Disney Plus. Now, I ain't a big fan that I had to go pay Disney Plus $7.99, because also Disney is a terrible corporation. But anyway, or like how well a Constitution Means to Me is doing at Amazon. Again, I hate Amazon. I don't want it. But just like it's opening the doors for millions of people to experience work. And so I would love a future of theater where it's a hybrid, where we have our live performances per usual. But also theaters are investing in these high quality recorded productions. I also imagine a future where Actors Equity and SAG can get off their high horses and come to a compromise. I recently got bit in the ass about that earlier this week, trying to contract actors. Anyway, because like that is the future. That is where we're going, and I talk to people about binge all the time and about how we launched this in the fall of 2016. 2016. Yeah, it was 2016. Nope. Mm-hmm. It was early November 2016. I know. Yeah, and I've been talking to people about it, and then everyone was like, you are way ahead of your time, way ahead of your time. And I'm just like, no, I think it's just the time needed to catch up. Like, we were, I would argue, behind, because inaccessible theater has existed long before 2016. Yeah, we were just catching up. We just started catching up earlier than y'all. We're trying to catch up.
And I will say that we're finally like at a place where we can do things like this, but it did take a lot of experimenting. It did take a lot of figuring things out. And I will say that as a historian, I was inspired by the early days of television and of films. It was a lot of like, hey, let's throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks. I'm like sort of like reviewing notes right now, and like one of the people that was famous locally was this woman named Vampira. Like, so that, I mean, the name says all as far as persona goes. But like, like there's a market for everything, and I think it. As a historian, I will say, and you know what, I will do one of these little. That's my. I know I'm about to mansplain sound.
Oh, I love it. I love that you have a sound effect for that.
Well, like it just. I'm trying to use my powers for good. Is the point of whatever I was going to say, but but there is a market for everything, and as a historian, I have seen the power of diversity, and diversity is the thing that can save an industry. And right now, we need to be aggressive with it instead of trying to figure out just the best way of doing it. Like, we need to do some things, fail a little bit, and in a safe way, of course, because in the end, I do believe safety is power. But I will say that we have to try things. We have to figure stuff out right now, and kudos to everyone who is doing it on their own. But expanding the table is sort of like the big picture that can resurrect a whole industry, because there is a market for everything, and right now we need money. And I will also introduce you to Marshmallow. Hello, Marshmallow. Look, this will get us some like puppy views.
Yes, marshmallow.
Use your
Yeah,
power.
that is the thing. You know, I think about like these large establishments of theaters, right? Like we have the Public, we have OSF, we have Arena, and like, yeah, we're all struggling. The theater be struggling. But what happens if we change our priorities to, celebrate diversity, to be accessible, to create a future that is both digital and live? What happens if y'all change your priorities just a little bit, just a little bit? Does that mean
Yeah,
Mr. Oscar Eustace doesn't get paid as much as he does? Oh well, like maybe. Um,
within these organizations, I feel they're asking the wrong questions. I feel like they're asking themselves the question, like, how can I save my ass? When that
yep,
is usually the question that gets your ass fired. And I will just say that as a historian. But
exactly.
I will say that I think social media has taught us a little bit of the wrong lesson in like wanting views and wanting attention and wanting like the most, when history tells me that it's these niche audiences, these ones that feel like they are getting a deeper connection with the material. They are the ones that are the loyal audience. So like all of these like YouTube stars being YouTubey and doing all the trends, they'll get the views, but they're usually not in it for the long run. And
Hmm.
as someone who has somewhat of a platform, I will say like theater needs to figure out what their niche audience is, and I think we're about to reach a renaissance of regional theater. I think we're about to decentralize from the coasts, and like we're gonna hear a lot of stories from the middle of America. I
I
think
hope
that's gonna
so.
be
I am tired of like East Coast supremacy.
right,
That's what I
right.
call it. Just like every meeting, they don't send out like if it's in Easter time or whatever. And I'm just like, y'all know you communicating with me. You can take the minute to write Central Time. You know,
Right.
why do I gotta do it all the time?
I
Anyway,
I looked it up for the
mini soapbox,
promo.
mini
I will
soapbox.
say, um, but I will say that I looked it up because I'm used to working with people sort of like across the country as a dramaturg and a coach sometimes in the before times. And I think right now we're being forced to do that. We're being forced to make these connections, and so
Yeah, which
I
again, I like, which is lovely. I'm going to be a little bitter just for a second.
go for it.
I mean, because also like a lot, I've gotten a lot of pushback from peers naturally because like, we are all mourning what was once
Right.
versus where we are now and those are totally valid for a multitude of reasons. So I'm not here to be like, stop it. But I have gotten a lot of pushback when I've spoken very positively about like what a digital hybrid future could look like. Um, but like one thing that I keep getting pushback about um, is like how, oh, well, without a live audience, without doing theater live, like you just can't have those connections with people, blah, blah, blah. That's what theater's all about. And I'm also sitting here and I think about how like you and I have built relationships with not just one another, but scores of artists online and digitally since 2016. I think
Right.
about an international collaborative I'm a part of called Unsettling Dramaturgy that I've been a part of since 2018. And we've never met each other in real life. It's all been on Zoom.
Right.
Um, hello. I think about these old platforms. Oh, I forgot the name of it. Claudia Alec. They are an amazing disability advocate, um, amazing advocate for their Black community, and oh, they talk about this platform all the time. I'm so sorry, Claudia. Anyway, but it was this platform where you could watch a movie with your friends and like have a little comment section going on at the same time, like you would be forming those relationships and experiencing it in real time. So I mean, also, there are countless studies that show that you can still have these relationships digitally and feel connected as though you're in the same room together while screening something in community. Um, And so, like, yo, you can't argue with science. You can't
Right.
argue with proven data. Like, we can still have that magic of liveness of the theater digitally. It just takes some ending of pity parties and thinking creatively, but also like looking to individuals who have been doing this work for years. I mean, not just as a binge, not just at Unsettling, not just at Calling Out Justice, which is the organization that Claudia runs. There are tons and tons of artists who've been doing this, who have been accountable to their communities, prioritizing community accountability, and creating these connections virtually. And so, yeah, so it's like, how about we decenter from this whiteness of theater, which has not had to do that work because they have not been excluded. So they did not have to find other ways to connect with their communities. And look to the predominantly BIPOC artists who've been doing this. You know, I mean, I love saying all the time, like, an original thought is not as original as we think it is. More often than not, somebody's already done it. And that somebody is most likely a Black, Indigenous, or brown person.
Right, 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 right. I mean, American arts has a very, very long history of whitewashing arts by BIPOC people, and maybe we're at a place where that is all changing. I hope so. Um, and in this time of change, do you, what I think is going to be happening along with making these connections is also like a mixing of forms. Like I feel like
Yeah.
music is going to be a lot more theatery. I feel like virtual reality is going to get more theatrical content. Um,
Oh, I know something about that. But yes, I can't tell the public, but yes. Uh,
and and I'm not really sure where I'm going with this right now, but but do you have places that you go to sort of keep up with these people? Because I will say that Facebook, Instagram, connecting with these people that I admire already are working with, like a simple follow of like the style team has been great as far as like starting conversations and even getting some connections from that. Um, how important do you think Instagram, YouTube, the forms that we already have, how important do you think those are going to be for the theater movement? Because I feel like we can still learn a lot from social media. It has been teaching us a lot, but there is room for growth, I feel like.
mhm. Yeah, so I tend to thrive on Twitter. That's where you all will find me. um, yeah, I mean, you know, it is important. We've known it's been important. I just think about like the past 5 years being in marketing conversations with institutions and about how all of these institutions have been hiring like social media strategists and social media marketers because they know it's not going anywhere. It's only continuing to grow. I mean, and that's evidenced by the fact that whenever new platforms come and then they get huge followings, those followings don't ever taper off. Usually, they continue to grow, and it can even continue to grow as more and more platforms are added. Like TikTok is a prime example of that right now.
See, now I'm scared of TikTok as a DC person. Like, I feel like I should not have it on my phone.
Yeah, fair, fair. I'm also not on the TikTok because I'm just like, you know what, I got a lot going on. Anyway, but I think it's negligent to ignore it or to think it's not going to be part of our future. Now, what does that look like? I don't know.
Yeah,
Social media changes literally every minute.
right.
And from day to day, I mean, everything from like, the Popeyes chicken sandwich is an example that I give a lot when I teach like social media strategic planning classes. And how something as simple as a tweet with some shade at Chick-fil-A, which deserves all the shade, dare I say, anyway, sold them out nationally for months because of one singular tweet. And again, like that's a little bit different because like, it's a different industry, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But like, it's not going anywhere. Why don't we just embrace it and then figure out, again, through trial and error, like how it can work for theater, how it can serve our audiences, serve our communities,
Definitely.
keep us accountable to our communities. Um, yeah, I mean, because like even I think about Tilla Tulsa, the organization that I'm the artistic director of, and we are producing On the Wings of Mariposa by Alvaro Sarrios. Amazing. Find him on New Play Exchange. Anyway, and because we're in this digital time, I was like, you know what? What happens if I post this audition notice in just one Facebook group?
Uh-huh.
Just one. And a Latinx theater comments. I was like, what if I put it in there? What'll happen? It's a cast of 6. Typically, pre-pandemic, we would get about 20, 30 auditioners
Hmm.
for a show. Sometimes 10. Depends on the time of year.
Right.
Anyway, locally. And so I put that out there since it's digitally, and I'm like, might as well. And we got over 200 like audition submissions.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I spent 15 hours on Zoom this weekend. That was fun.
Oh,
Anyway,
fun. Wow. Wow.
oh gosh, it was a lot. I mean, but like I felt really energized because like the artists were so great. And and we've had folks audition from Alaska all the way up to the tip of New York, and
Mhm.
everywhere in between. And it was just such a lovely time that like I, Facebook, of all places, was able
Right.
to put me in contact with these hundreds of artists who I'm
Yeah.
excited to work for in the future, who I'm excited to send opportunities along to. Because now I know that they're there, that they're interested, and as we're on this digital platform, might as well introduce them to our local communities here in Tulsa and really showcase like the diversity of the Latinx community. So
And I will
like,
say
Facebook
that,
did that.
yeah, definitely. And I will say that something that we can learn from social media is uh authenticity is a big social media marketing
Mm-hmm.
theory term. Um
Yeah.
and I have found just by doing my own studies and my own experiments with binge is that the more you lean into your own interests, your own uniqueness, that's where you find that authenticity. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, there's a whole generation that can spot it and is craving it because we're in the alternative facts generation, and so we're hungry for the truth.
I just thought of a wild example. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is even relevant, but it might be. Because I was thinking like around this question of authenticity, and then like how that gets folks involved, whether that's to buy a ticket to a theater show, come to the theater, or like buy a product or whatever, whatever. And I think back to like print media, which who's that voice? We don't know. But then I also thought of like Billy Mays, rest his soul,
Mhm.
for OxyClean and like those types of infomercials. I also think of like the Magic Bullet blender. When I was growing up, I saw those infomercials and
Yeah.
like all of that. There was no soul, so inauthentic. 100%. And like, even though Billy Mays was so exciting and so
Yeah.
energized, I just could not believe. I was like, does this guy really get this excited about some damn cleaner? Or is he just getting paid, right? Anyway, and so like I didn't feel that connection
Yeah. Mhm.
to those companies.
Yeah.
But yeah, but social media is totally different because you can actually feel the authenticity, know who's behind the accounts, be able to interact.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then not just be some like blank face talking to a camera with no expectation of like who's actually behind it.
Yeah. And I think it is also important to say that any theater companies that are thinking of, giving uh, their actors access to their Instagram feed, or like they'll do like a takeover. Definitely, like up their pay if they're gonna be working for you. Like it's if they're gonna be doing
Yes.
stuff on their free time, make sure you pay it. Another one of my rules for how to change the culture: love and money will fix all your problems. And in this country, money is power. And so if we want to redistribute it, start with the money.
Yep.
Where's my bell? Where's my bell? My mansplaination wrong. I'm using my powers for good, guys. I'm using them for good.
Yes.
Trying to, at least. Now, I would be remiss if we only talked about form. You did mention a few individuals. Any ones that you think are ones to look for in the horizon, ones who will be there in the future, for whatever it will look like for theater.
Oh my gosh. There's so many. I'm just like, and I'm gonna feel so bad
Disclaimer,
if I
this is
start
not
naming.
exhaustive.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I'm just gonna feel so bad if I start naming people that I forget, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so like artists are gonna be in the future. Miranda Haymond, they are not going anywhere.
No.
Adore them, back from the arena stage days, and they are killing it at Roundabout in New York. So like Miranda Haymond, watch them. They're it. Um,
Let's do one more. Let's do one more.
one more. Okay, okay. Oh damn. Oh dang. Oh dang.
Now, for
Kenny Ramos. Okay, I'm gonna go with Kenny. Anyway,
beautiful.
oh man, some people are gonna be so mad at me because Kenny's wonderful, but also like we're part of a really tight knit community, and they're like, "How dare you?" Anyway, but so Kenny
I
Ramos,
just heard the entire theater industry like hold their breath. Is it me? Is it
right? I was like, "But only give me two." Yeah. So Kenny Ramos is a two-spirit Kumeyaay artist, and he's based in Southern California on his traditional homelands. Anyway, he's just a fantastic actor. Also, you know, musical theater actor too. So y'all looking for an indigenous person? Hello, Kenny. Anyway,
beautiful?
but so what I like just so love and adore about Kenny is how committed he is to community, how committed he is to community accountability at
Yeah.
that, especially as, you know, we're working towards a national movement against redface, against casting non-native actors in native roles. And I really think of Kenny on the forefront of that as someone who is connected to community, holds it, like himself super accountable to community, and is also looking to the future, which is more just, which is more equitable, and giving more opportunity to folks. Yeah, so I think
Beautiful.
definitely of like Miranda, Cutting Edge, they're doing it, and then like also with Kenny moving us forward and being part of that movement, I think of him too.
Beautiful. Now, now I do have to ask you to plug your own things right now. What organizations are you working with at this moment, which could change at any given time because you are a busy lady.
Right? Well, this week alone is a lot. I guess we're going to start with this week. uh, yeah. So, I mean, I'm with Groundwater Arts. And oh my gosh, we just had our mission. Oh no. We like Stewart, something else, and seed a just future. And for us, like we define this just for like the theater and like cultural and art industries, etc., as climate justice, which equals racial justice, which equals disability justice, economic justice, which equals decolonization. Anyway, so working with Groundwater. And today's Tuesday. Today is actually to sign up, y'all, on Eventbrite. Today we are facilitating a Pay What You Can workshop with No Dream Deferred out of New Orleans, specifically with Lauren Turner and India Mack. They are two amazing Black women who've been moving and shaking down there in New Orleans and everywhere. But yeah, we are doing a workshop that is a simulation, which is exciting, about a climately just future rooted in community accountability and racial justice. Ooh, Theater Washington is, sponsoring this. So it's not too late, y'all. Not too late. Go sign up. Pay what you can, or what you want. Anyway, so that's today. Also this week, like again with Tilo Tulsa, based here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that serves Latinx and Native artists and their stories. We are kicking off On the Wings of a Mariposa, which is a beautiful, beautiful play about like healing and like remembering loved ones who've lost and Freddie Gongs. Anyway, for Dia de los Muertos. So it's going to be premiering on November 1st and 2nd. So real soon. We're doing it.
Good stuff.
And then on Friday, I am directing a beautiful, beautiful short play by J.Z. Bates about Misty Upham, who is a Blackfeet actress who was assaulted repeatedly throughout her life, but most famously by Harvey Weinstein's production company, and who died a preventable death at the hands of police negligence. And so the program on Friday is called Say Their Names. It's a collection of short plays centered on Black, Indigenous, and other women of color who've died at the hands of police violence or negligence. So it is a beautiful selection of wonderful plays, and it's free to attend. All you have to do is email saytheirnameshonorroll@gmail.com. And you can experience this beautiful lineup of plays and a really powerful panel afterwards. And a lot of the plays are also in accordance with the Breath Project in honor of George Floyd, and they are the 8 minutes and 46 seconds, I believe, long for the amount of time the officer's knee was on his neck. So very powerful stuff happening on Friday. So be there and support. It's a community-led grassroots movement to put this program together. So that's great.
Which is the future of theater.
It is the future of theater. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and then like, coming down the runway. I'm also going to be directing with New Native Theater, a wonderful short play by Rihanna Yazzie, artistic director, playwright, Bene extraordinaire. And yeah, I have a couple of commissions for new plays I need to be working on. Oh my God, I also forgot a short play of mine called Patchwork, is in the Native Voices of the Autry 10th Annual Short Play Festival. And that's coming up on November 14th and 15th. We have another rehearsal coming up. Oh God, please let it not be this week. Soon. Anyway, yeah, and you can come watch the selection of short plays, choose your favorite play, and then that playwright gets a nice, lovely cash prize. So you don't have to pick mine if it's not your favorite, but you should come and see if it might be.
Beautiful. And as you add things to your roster of collaborations, where is it that people can follow to be updated on your whereabouts?
Yes, which everywhere abouts from my living room. Yeah, so on Instagram and on Twitter, I'm at Tara Tomahawk. Twitter, you don't get a lot, so fair warning. Anyway, so that's where you can find out the details. Old-fashioned Facebook, we can do that. But also taramoses.com, which is on my to-do list to update sometime soon because it's not quite updated. But you can get a lot of stuff from there too.
Good stuff. And before signing off, I will say thank you to the production team here at Binge, which includes my guest, Tara Moses, our supervising producer, Joseph Trey Babb, and myself, Freddy Mancilla.
Yay!
Our logo is designed by myself and Ryan Fox, based on an original design by Ryan Fox. And we'll see you guys next time on The Future of Theater.
Stay tuned, there's some amazing people coming.
Thanks, Tara.
Yay!
Binge.